Hi, subscribers. Welcome to season 1 of Missing in Muskingum Valley. I'm Cookie, your host. This is going to be a deep dive section into some missing persons cases in my area. And I've followed a lot of missing persons cases over the years, but lately there's been a few that have really drawn me in, and this is one of them. Today we're going to talk about the case of Richard Heagen. As of today, which is March of 2026, Richard has been missing for 2 years. When I saw his picture and his story being shared locally, something really drew me to the case. A part of me feels like it's because I'm so close to my dad. And this man's voice has been his daughter since his disappearing. And something just really made me think of my dad every time I saw that he was still missing and nobody had heard from him. And it just tugged at my heartstrings for this daughter. Her name is Meagen. I reached out to Meagen and we sat down for an interview. This is my first interview, so I apologize as I was learning the audio and what it's like to sit down with somebody and talk about such a sensitive subject. Meagen had some hesitations. We joked about how her daughter told her not to get kidnapped or sex trafficked, which is really a scary thought. But I think once she met me, we just clicked. She hopped on into the Jeep. We went for coffee and an interview. I'll play our interview now. All right, Meagen, let's get started. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your dad?
Well, to start off, he was a big man. He was a big teddy bear. Such a sweetheart. Growing up, always like on the weekends with him, he was always outside, always doing something with the neighborhood kids. Like it wasn't just, just adults and things. He would always include everyone. Such an active person in the community, like with the kids, playing basketball, just fun things like that. And, always had the best time with him. And yes, he did struggle with some mental health issues. He has been battling schizophrenic and depression for decades. And when he would get what I'd say like a mood, he would just kind of like closet himself in. He wouldn't be around. And that kind of made me think like, well, what's wrong? But being so young, I never understood. And then growing up, I understand now, like, he didn't want anybody to see him like that. And so he closed himself off, and he'd just come out and be this, my dad again. Like, nothing happened, You couldn't question him because he wasn't talking about nothing besides happiness. So, yeah, there's just so much. He was such a strong-willed guy. If he wanted to do it, he would do it. I mean, he loved walking. The man lived in East Fultonham, would go walking to Walmart or on Gray Street with his walking stick, and he loved it. It was just, he never harmed anybody. He was never a problem. He was just always a sweet, genuine soul that we need in this world. Well, he in 2023, he went missing for about 12 hours, and they found him in a pond. And he said he was going fishing. Well, he had no fishing equipment, and he had slit wrist. He was in a manic episode. So they transferred him to OSU. While he was up there, his wife that held him together for decades, was his entire life, passed away. And she passed away July 7th of 2023 of heart issues. So he had no idea. I mean, me and my brother went up there, and he didn't even know who we was. So it was very concerning, to try to get him to be like, hey, Dad, your wife just passed away. How are we going to explain this to him when he don't even know who we are? But as soon as we handed him the obituary, oh no, 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 no. He knew everything just clicked him. And he was just in disbelief. And how hard that had been for him. He couldn't even be at her burial, nothing. He was stuck in the hospital and kind of probably felt like it was all his fault. And after that, things just changed dramatically. I went to visit him, and he said he was taking his meds, but he came out. He had this big beard, fluffy hair, which never, ever happened, ever. And he was off. And then I was like, I'll come back in a week. And he's like, oh, no, make it a month. Okay, so he's trying to deal with things. I'm thinking he's on his medication. This is his way of coping. I'm not really going to stress about it, but it was off. Then I don't hear from him until March 19th of 2024. And he calls me at 6:30 in the morning, which was odd. He don't call me that early. And he's just, I'm sorry for never being a dad to you guys. I'm sorry. There's 3,000 people after me. You don't understand. There's big people after me. And I can't. I'm just so sorry. And he just kept saying he was sorry for never being a dad. That was the thing that he kept repeating. And then towards the end, I'm trying to reassure him, Dad, you're fine. You're his dad. We love you. You're okay. But after, he hung up, he said, tell all the grandkids that I love them. And goodbye. Okay, goodbye. I looked at my brother and I'm like, he's in a mood. Goodbye. He never says goodbye. It's always see you later, talk to you later, or whatever. So I knew he was in a mood, and I just hung up when he hung up. And I thought, I'll give him about a day or two. I'll call back. I'll call him, see how he's doing, respect how he's coping type thing. That's how I thought at first. I never heard back from him. And then he's missing. And it's been almost 2 years. So when he was missing, something's always led me to that water. And like I said, my dad, he went through a lot, and he was in a manic state. So he was suicidal, absolutely, no doubt in my head. But he isn't a normal person. I'm not saying it's normal to be, what I'm trying to say. He's not just going to go jump off of a bridge or go, whatever, lay himself, whatever. He's not going to do that. He was very determined and very, intelligent of things. So he's going to make things more, he doesn't want to be found, I feel like. So there's so many different ways of what could have happened. But for the simple fact that he was caught walking towards a Y bridge at 8:20, or not 8:20, I'm sorry, 9 p.m. He left his house at 8:20 on West Main. And there's no sight of him coming off either end of the Y bridge. So that's, sketchy right there. And there's just no other evidence of that. So it's just kind of blew under the rug. He's missing, he was suicidal. It is what it is, pretty much. It's not what it is, okay? We need answers. We need to know, because he was such a genuine man that, he would do anything for anybody. He had no problems with people. Yes, he does. And there's just, there's no way that people was after him. And, he was in a schizophrenic manic episode. And I knew that. But I also wanted to respect his way of things, But I didn't do anything. And now that he's missing, I'm trying to do everything now, and I feel like I should have done it then. But as soon as when he was missing, I said, the water. I mean, that big field that's by the Dollar General that leads down into the water or whatever, there's a footprint there. My friend gave him a pair of shoes, matched the freaking size 12, 13. Come on. That's something to look at, right? That's something. nothing was ever looked at like thoroughly of what I was trying to say until about 4 months later. That's when I called in the first official search. Well, the search people got a hold of me. They didn't call it in. They got a hold of me. ODNR got a hold of you. There was a search lady that got a hold of me, and they brought down ODNR because they saw all my posts on Facebook. So we meet at the sheriff's office. I'm thinking, oh yes, we're going to get answers. This is a huge deal. But then again, you got to think, 4 months later, okay? Then when we go in there, I was dumbfounded because everything I said in the beginning was knocked out. Why? Why 4 months later? Why couldn't we map this out when I said? And they know they're trained in cases of missing people to work out from the closest people to the victim, the missing person. So it really baffles me that even in the town of Meagen County, like, we're not huge. We did used to be the capital of Ohio, but we have numbers here. Right. We have educated people here. So it baffles me that they didn't credit what you had to say. And that's where I've been so lost for these past couple of years, because it's like anytime I try to speak up, I get looked at like I'm nothing. That my words are nothing. Maybe I'm dramatic. Maybe I'm just saying this. Maybe I just want to find just a fast closure. No. Okay? None of that. Well, prolonged closure is not a cool thing. Right. So, of course, you want closure as quick as possible. But I want it accurate. Yeah. Right. And that was just kind of like, that's the whole thing. It's just, okay, his mental health history. So, put two and two together. Oh, yeah, probably just, went off the grid or committed suicide. Well, we just got to wait till something pops up. No. Like, you would think that means we need to search better, and now, you know what I mean? That's a red flag there. Mental health, he has problems. You know this. And he was very well known in Zanesville, okay? Very well known. So, why? Why is it so hard just, oh, well, the currents, this. Okay, well, what about sonars? What about, different things? Just yes. Lives to look for. Yes. Happen to do that. Exactly, and I'm grateful for the team that came down and searched and all that. I'm not trying to. Where would you know, like, where all they actually cleared? Just for our people, we get. So the duck pond. You know where the duck pond is, correct? From there, from the bridge, the 6th Street Bridge, almost out to the boat dock or whatever, the boathouse on 555, the blue area. That's where it stopped. So it was supposed to continue last spring. Okay. I heard from a lady in March of last spring. Never returned any of my texts, nothing. Okay. Since then, it's been a year. All right. So I can get no return calls of nothing. Of nothing. Even if it's just to say, oh, hey, we're still working on it, we haven't. Detective work in this case. Detective Duvall. I've had a little bit of experience with Mr. Duvall too. Yes, he is the one. And I understand, busy, things happen. But I have a lot of missing people in this county. Exactly. And the simple fact, like, I respect everybody, but the fact that I'm his daughter and I'm trying to, hear from you to know that things are still going, or what can I do that's different that I can help with. I think the saddest realization we have to come to is that nobody cares about your dad as much as you do. So we're going to have to do this because you're the one that cares the most. And I will not give up. I will not. I have been, a lot of my family people, whatever you want to call it, think, sometimes I can't talk to nobody about it because it's just kind of like, oh, well, yeah, it is what it is and it's gone. No, it's not. And it's not about me trying to be this attention person and all that about, I want all the fame and glory of finding my dad. No. You think I want to be, you think I want to be the person doing this? No, but if I'm not, who else is? So I know it's not about attention. And it's like, and it just grinds my gears because it makes me feel like that's really how they feel. Like, yeah, me and my dad, like, my brothers was probably closer. That's, I'm not going to deny that.
But what if it was you missing? What would your dad be doing for you?
Exactly what the heck I'm doing.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. My dad is so determined, and I get that from my dad. Like, my dad deserves to be found. He deserves the peace. He is a human being that should have never just been, oh, well, we just gotta wait. Okay, well, let's wait on what? Okay, because I'm tired of waiting 2 years. I'm supposed to sit back and just let us do our job. I would if it was being, I'm just like, no, it aggravates me because, like, I legit took myself and walked through the water to see if I can make it across under the bridge undetected. You know what I mean? To see, maybe he did it that way. And I made it. I mean, it was above my knees, but it's rocky, it's messy. I understand, but we had flooding that year too. But even if it was flooded, like I said, my dad was 6'3", 250 some pounds. Like, he's a big guy. He ain't going to get knocked down by that stuff.
That's okay. I think the currents could be an issue no matter how big you are, depending on where you went in. But like you had said before, your dad seemed really determined that day. He was on a mission, and I don't really know if there's anything that anybody could have done to stop him. So I need you to know that, even though we will all carry our own guilt about the people we love that are gone, that there's nothing I can say that's going to change the way you feel about your dad being missing. But like you said, you have a feeling that your dad didn't want you guys to find him and didn't want you guys to have to like make final arrangements, and so it's a possibility that your dad could have weighted himself down.
Absolutely.
Like that. So that would narrow possibly the area where he would be, and we need to make sure that area right there around the bridge is just completely cleared.
Exactly.
It's going to be a hard thing to do, but I want to try to do that. I want to try to do something for you because I don't want you to feel alone. And we had some recording issues earlier, so we've kind of had this conversation twice today. I don't want to repeat myself any, but I think it's really important that people realize that your dad was a human being that was struggling very hard and was in a really rough place to disappear to get to this point. Your dad was really struggling, and that's not a place where we need anybody in our community to be. So if I can't find your dad, what I want to do is help you take the love that is trapped inside you that you can't give your dad. And I've realized with losing a child that it tends to like build up inside of you, and just having the love that is meant for a specific person and not being able to transfer that love can also cause a lot of like emotion issues. Having a hard time controlling your emotions in public, and that causes anxiety about social situations. And I completely get that. And we talked earlier about, if we can't find your dad, what we might be able to do for you and your girls. And we had talked about, I think, a suicide hotline would be a freaking amazing place for you to find yourself. You were talking about possibly wanting to go back to school, to be a psychologist that listens to people, and instead of just
during medicine and
and how do you feel about that? Because you have this compassionate side to you that understands mental health.
Yes.
And I think that would be a great opportunity for you, is to help prevent more suicide.
Absolutely.
So I want to work on that with you. I want to work on full, complete searches. I'm also one person, but with the two of us together, I feel like we can get something done. And I just don't want you to feel alone.
And I appreciate that because I do. I honestly do. I mean, there's a handful of people out there, and I'm grateful for them. I am. But it's like when it comes down to the nitty gritty, who is there? You know, what is there? And I feel like I'm just being a laughing stock, pretty much. Or like, oh, she's just dramatic, or she don't know what she's talking about. Like, I got intuition. Like when he not passed, oh my gosh, when he went missing, I was afraid of the water. And that's not me. I'm a swimming McGee, okay? I love swimming. I love the water. I couldn't even be in a bathtub without like hyperventilating. I miss blacking out because anytime I'd close my eyes and I'd be in the water, I just see him in that water trapped. And that's my problem. Like, oh, well, if he was in the water, he would have floated up by now, natural gases. Okay, but what if he's stuck? There's a bunch of rocks, there's a bunch of things like that in the trees. Yes.
And with the flooding debris.
Yes.
So much.
And that's what's always stuck in my head, in my gut. Like, he's in that water. I will continue to say he's in that water until
Abraham.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, well, there's so many different theories. There's so many different things that run through my head, but it's always back to that water. Always. And like, I just wish that I could have been heard the same day that it happened. Not take 4 months later.
Everyone waited 2 years.
Yeah. And like the longer that goes on, the more I'm not gonna lie, I get Debbie Downey. Like, I'm never gonna find out. I'm never,
Never find
yeah.
out. That's a hard part to swallow.
And so it's not like I know where he's at, and I'm like, yeah, he's gone, and I can go somewhere to see him or something like that. No, I don't know where he's at. I don't know what's happened. I don't know nothing, but that he was on a mission that morning. And I know he didn't want to be found. And how that man is, if he doesn't want to be found, he ain't going to be found, okay, unless you work. And it wasn't out of, just let me take the quick, easy way. It was things built up in his life. He was tired of fighting. I know, I could feel that in him that morning he called me. He was just so tired. And it just kills me that I didn't do nothing because I knew, I knew. I looked at my brother. I'm like, he's in a mood. He's just not all right now. But I didn't do nothing, and that haunts me every single day because if I would have put my foot down and like, Dad, let's go. We're going to get some help, or let me talk to you. Actually sit down one-to-one, talk to him. Maybe things would have been different. But then again, like I said, how my dad was, he was on a mission. He knew what he was doing. I know he did.
So what's your advice for anybody with a family member or a parent or a child struggling mentally? I know that you missed some things with your dad, but what are some things that you think people should look for just to help prevent, anyone else?
Never not listening. Thinking that, things are the same. If it's like a repeated behavior or pattern, like your child or someone struggling, like, oh, I don't like today, or I want to hurt myself, and you think it's just cycle over and over again. You always want to question. You always want to address that situation. You never want to just, they'll be okay in a couple of days and think that they're going to get better. Like, even if that's how it usually goes, that doesn't mean it's going to go that way that time. So you're always going to want to listen, pay attention, never take any sign too lightly. Always be there and listen and take every sign to heart. Whether it's better to be, paranoid than not care.
Better to be wrong and have a man than to lose them.
Exactly. Because I didn't do nothing besides, my dad will be okay. He's in a mood. Give him a couple days. 2 years later, I've not heard from him since.
You had no way.
But and like, I just feel like I knew, though. I did know. Like, I had that feeling, man, something's wrong, but I didn't want to, think about it because it's hard to think about things like that. So that's another thing. Like, I know nobody wants to think about anybody hurting themselves, but to come to reality, a lot of these people are hurting themselves because they're not heard. They're not taken seriously. So you've got to just own up to it and take it as it is, whether it's lovely or not. Just be there. Do what you got to do to make sure your person is safe, regardless. Because if you don't, what happens in the next 2 years? All that, everything I've missed out, everything he's missed out. And that's another reason that I know he's just not out here randomly hiding away and stuff. His grandbabies, okay? He had never once missed any of their birthdays, any holiday. Nothing. Not once. All right. Christmas came around. He never heard from him. So, he was, not feeling. And I understood that because it was the first Christmas without his wife, everything, so I'm not really thinking big of it. I'm like, okay. But then when my daughter's birthday came around and still nothing, and then he went missing legit 9 days after my daughter's first birthday.
Okay, let's dissect this a little bit. I have to say that Meagen is an absolute sweetheart. I just really vibed with her. I could literally feel her pain as soon as I met her. Um, it was a hard interview to do. She feels so alone, and it's not fair. I hate how alone this girl feels. So I just want to speak to anybody who is struggling with those type of thoughts or thinking that they'd be better off not here anymore. I just want you to stop and think about your people, the people that love you and look out for you. I want you to think about what they'd go through if they couldn't find you or if they didn't know what happened to you. Because this girl loved her daddy. And he called her that day, and she's forever going to hold the guilt that he told her goodbye and she didn't realize that's what he was doing. And I thought her advice to other people was super impactful. Just to take action. You guys know that we have a mental health crisis in our country. And sometimes, even if we're not qualified, we have to be our people's mental health professionals sometimes. Megan's dad wasn't taking his medication. He had had a previous attempt on his life the year before he went missing, and he was hospitalized for about 3 months. That's when his wife passed away. And when he was released from the mental health facility up at Ohio State, his daughter discovered after he was missing that he had took none of his medications after he was released from the mental health facility. None. And there was nobody to stay on top of that for Richard. And Megan just didn't know to check. So she thought her dad was medicated and working through his grief. And it turns out the whole time that he was completely off of his medication and he was spiraling. And she thought she was doing the right thing by giving his space and letting him grieve. I think her story is super impactful. It's super important for people to hear, family members of people that are struggling mentally. She feels like her daddy is still in that water, and that's devastating. There wasn't really a full search. It's a dangerous area. If you can see where she's standing, she believes that her dad went into the water right behind her, and it's a very dangerous area. But what can we do for this young woman to help locate her dad and get her out of the water if that's where he is? If he's not in the water, why hasn't his disappearance been fully investigated as if it could be a homicide, a kidnapping, anything? Because we have Meagen's intuition. But as far as the investigators go, it doesn't seem like they really tried very hard to find him. I'd like to bring attention to that. I think it doesn't matter whether he has a mental health issue or whether he had had a previous attempt on his life or how bad he was struggling, what medication he was supposed to be on, the fact that he could have been schizophrenic. I don't think any of that matters when somebody comes missing. I think all avenues should really be explored. All avenues. And I'm not sure that they were here. So I'd like to encourage you to just pay attention to your surroundings. If you see something, say something. Richard was spotted headed towards the Y Bridge in Zanesville that night. And it's likely that there was nothing odd about the way he was moving or traveling. So maybe there was nothing to see, to say. But if it was possible and somebody could have saw something that just didn't sit right with them, I'm going to ask that you please contact the Muskingum County Sheriff's Department, 740-452-3637. The detective handling Richard's case is Mr. Duvall. Let's dive back in to the rest of Meagen's interview. I know your dad's not here right now, and your heart, you know where your dad is. But if he was listening right now, which I believe he is, what would you want to say to your dad?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I wasn't there, that I didn't pick up the signs. I picked him up, but I didn't do anything about it. I didn't want to invade in his space. I'm sorry that I didn't save him. You know, I feel like I could have saved him somehow, some way, and I didn't. I let him go. And the thought of him being trapped in that water is the most disturbing freaking thing I have to go through every day. And I would not stop. I can't. I promised him I wouldn't. You know, I can't. I already let him down once. I can't let him down again. And I'm so sorry. That's like always my thing is I could have saved him. I could have. But I didn't. And that's why it's so important to me to never give up and to never take the red flags and stuff and push them off anymore to anybody. You know, if I see something, I'm going there. With my daughter, we all suffer some type of mental health. Oh, no. I've learned now. I mean, it took a traumatic thing for me to learn, but I will never try to give somebody their space if they need my time, for me to sit there and listen to understand them. I'm not the one to listen, oh yeah, we'll get over it, I'm there to connect with you, to let you bring your peace. And And I wasn't able to give that to him. Besides, oh, yeah, he's in a mood. And when he said goodbye, I said goodbye. Like an idiot. And then when I said it, I just looked at my brother. I'm like, he just said goodbye. He never says goodbye. And I knew it, but I didn't want to believe it because you don't want to sit there and believe your dad's about to go, MIA, per se. I just want to let him know I'm so sorry, but I am not giving up until he is at peace. And I don't care that people think that he's at peace if he is gone, because he is not. He is not. I can feel it. I can just feel it in my gut. My dad is in that water. No matter, we've done ground searches, drone searches, all kinds of stuff. Everything is leading me to that water. And I'm not going to stop. I'm going to save what's left, or try to. Until then, I can't get peace. I can't get closure. Nobody can. It's not about me. It's about my dad. It's about finding him, regardless. That's how it makes me feel, honestly, that he's just floating away like it's nothing. Like it's just debris in the water, and that's messed up.
Yeah.
And that crushes me and makes me so angry at the world, which is not the world's fault, but it's just, I am out here begging, pleading, like all over Facebook. Just please, somebody help me. Please listen to me. Okay. Do you know how exhausting that is? How close I just wanted to give up. Like today, I was contemplating, like, I don't know, because I hate to talk about it, but then that's all I know, because if I don't, it's just going to get like what back then, Yeah, it's not going to ever get solved or talked about. So it's just a continuous thing, a battle of, yes, let's do this, and no, I don't want to do this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm grateful that you reached out. And thank you for being a person that is listening to me, no matter how scattered I am. Because I'm lost, I get that. Just, my girls keep me together. But it'd be nice, that's my father. It's my dad. Like, he's not just some random person. I don't care if it's a random person to somebody. That's still a human.
Yeah.
I mean, is it okay to let any human just go?
That's part of the reason I jumped on this case, because like I'm really close to my dad. And I just couldn't imagine what you're going through, not knowing. My dad's all the way in Florida, but still I know exactly where he is. And I just can't imagine,
And that's what hurts me, because my dad was literally like, I lived on Wheeling at the time, and he lived on Gray Street, okay? Not too far away. But yeah, I still felt distant the last few months because he was isolating himself. He was saying he was taking his medication. Well, when we went there to get his things, none of his medicine bottles was touched.
So he wasn't medicated, and nobody was checking on that,
Nope. No, and he felt like nobody cared. And then when we would try to check on it, he's, oh yeah, we're good, Nobody would actually check the bottles. If I would have known that, give me your bottles, Dad. You know what I mean? Let me see for a fact. Let me see you take one right now. Something along the lines there. No, his every single bottle was untouched. Untouched. So he was going from the end of, middle of July all the way until when he went missing. And then when he got out, unmedicated. Plus all the traumatic stuff that was going on. You know what I mean? So anybody, I mean, come on. And there's so many signs that we just didn't want to pick up on, because my dad, he was such a determined person. He was so strong. He never let he knew how to handle it. So we thought. He always seemed like he had a grip on it. If he's in his mode, he goes, deals with it, then he'll be back out like nothing happened. Well, this time he was tired.
His wife probably helped him work through a lot of that
Oh,
stuff.
yes.
You know, like
Absolutely.
talk it through, work it through.
She has
and he
saved
lost
him
that, you know.
so many times. That was his rock.
Everybody needs that, whether it's like a romantic partner or whether it's your child or your friend or your parent. Everybody, when they're struggling, deserves like that one person.
And that was the one person that kept him afloat. That was the one person I can say that has always had him. You know what I mean? Always got him in check when he needed to be in check. And the way he lost her, I don't care if he had mental problems or not. That would be traumatic, okay?
Yeah, I think the day he went under the water, honey, he missed her more than he thought he could miss anyone here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mistake that sometimes I almost made it as a grieving mom.
Right.
Because I thought that what was in heaven was too important to worry about what was here.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
I can understand that train of thought for a minute, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another reason why I'm so wholeheartedly believe that he's in that water, because he wanted nothing to be with her. And he figured, there's nothing left in this life. He was in that manic episode. So why not? But he didn't want to hurt us. I know that. He didn't want to hurt us. That's why he doesn't want to be found, because he didn't want us to find him like that. So I can't even be mad. I'm not even mad. I'm just upset of how things are playing out. As he went through great lengths. I mean, what? How can he not be found by now? Because I don't know. It's just mind-boggling. He didn't want to hurt anybody. He just wanted to be with his wife. And it's not him hurting me or any of us. It's not. It's just the fact that he's stubborn and I can't find him. I know where he's at, but I can't get my hands on him.
I know your dad's not here right now, and your heart, you know where your dad is. Sorry, that looped around and started playing again. So that was my interview with Meagen. It was quite heartbreaking. I can't help but feel like she needs her community so much right now. Her name is Meagen Heagen. She can be found on Facebook. I would like to reach out to anyone listening that has any resources that might be able to help find Richard, whether he's in the water or maybe something else, because like I said, Meagen has a really strong intuition, and I believe in that. So I believe her that her dad is probably right there in the water. But in case he isn't, we do need all resources. She needs to know one way or another. I just don't feel like she's getting the help that she deserves. And I don't feel like Richard's getting the attention he deserves because he had mental issues. I just think that's devastating. So I want to say again, please, if you're struggling with your mental health, there's a lifeline. Dial 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you or someone you know needs support or assistance now, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. Meagen, I hope we find your daddy, honey. You have a friend for life here. Thanks for sitting down and telling this tragic story to me.
My dad deserves to be found. He deserves the peace. He is a human being.